Hey guys, I want to give you a little update on Tulsa and Houston because they're kind of a little bit interrelated and kind of similar as well. Um, Tulsa, everything I hear is they're going offense, offense, offense. Seems like they're whittling down their list. I know they did have some further conversations this weekend with some guys who I think kind of run that first round still of interviews, but it sounds to me like they will cut it down to finalist or a finalist and move pretty quickly this week, I think. I continue to hear, the buzz is guys like Mike Norvell at Arizona State. I don't know that you could rule out Spav. I don't know, maybe even Rhett Leshley might not be in it. But I hear it's really focusing on offense, and we'll keep you posted there. It was interesting, right before TCU's game this weekend, the word came out Doug Meacham was pulling out of that process. There was a lot of speculation, at least amongst coaches who called me, hey, is Meach pulling out of that because he knows something's happening at Houston? And, as we all know, Houston, they lost a tough game to Cincinnati. I don't think it was because of that loss. I think this was coming. But athletic director Mac Rhodes and the president and chancellor of the university had made the decision in advance of that, I believe, that Tony wasn't going to return. We put out the word yesterday morning. That decision had already been made. I guess that formally came out today, but that decision had been made. At Houston, Meacham was offense coordinator there, did a great year, and then went to TCU and had an incredible year there. So people logically say, well, is Doug Meacham the next guy at Houston? And that makes a lot of sense. What I understand in doing some checks and talking to some people with knowledge, Doug Meacham didn't really have a wonderful experience at Houston last year. I'm not saying he's not going to be the next head coach. I'm just saying a lot of people have said, tap your brakes a little bit on that one. The way it went down, the way he left, it just didn't leave a great taste in his mouth. And so, I don't know. Doug Meacham, logically, is a candidate. I just don't know that he's that massive front runner like everybody thinks he is. A lot of people in the coaching profession think Tom Herman is the right fit for this job. And everything I've heard here, again, at Houston is this is going to be a rising coordinator, maybe someone who's been a head coach before. It's going to be an offensive hire. They want somebody with a more outward personality, perhaps. If you think back to Bryles, Kevin Sumlin, these are guys who are they own the room when they walk in. Tony's a very good football coach, just a little bit more inward of a personality, if you know what I'm saying. I think they're looking to get back to where they were. Offensive, score a lot of points. They have the new stadium. Still, football facilities, in the city of Houston, right across the street is a different neighborhood. They need somebody who knows that place, knows Houston. Herman, from his time at Rice, he knows Houston pretty well. Philip Montgomery knows Houston pretty well. Offensive coordinator Baylor, who's just an outstanding offensive play caller, great coach. I think those guys are extremely logical. I'll tell you, there's been significant interest from very significant former head coaches who are now offensive play callers in the South, let's just say. Some very significant names. Let's see how it progresses the next couple of days, but I think at Houston you're going to see an offensive guy too, someone who can really take Houston football to the next level. So that's what I think is going to play out there. One interesting note, something you might see at Houston too, which we just saw at Kansas, David Beatty. Beatty gets hired, didn't sign that huge contract like Kansas had been giving to head coaches. Turner Gill was making $2 million at Kansas. Charlie Weiss was making well over $2 million at Kansas. David Beatty comes in, and his base is $800,000. People go, wait, what? Well, there's a lot of incentives in there, and he should earn significantly more than that. But, I made some calls and go, wow, that's a low number, isn't it? He said, when he was offered the job, part of his plan was to build the best possible staff. He needed more money for the staff than he felt like he needed for himself. Very noble, and it's a great way to build a staff. At Houston, you might see some of that too. They have a very good defensive coordinator. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets retained at all. But it can't be a one-man show or a two-man show. They need to have sufficient resources for the staff. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. I think that could happen at Tulsa too. I think you're going to see a trend there where head coaches back off a little bit for their asking more for their staffs. We've been hearing about that a lot in the profession, and I think that's something that's going to happen. As always, we'll keep you posted on the scoop.